Good evening, guys. Listen, I know it's late. I'm very well aware of time. But I have something on my heart that I want to talk to you about, and I'm on Facebook and Periscope. So we'll see what happens. Hello, hello, hello. And I want to be quick, and I say it all the time, but I swear I want to be quick because it's super late tonight. I just been thinking about this idea of struggling well. Most of the time when I come and talk to you, it's talking to worship leaders and minstrels and psalmists and that. And so I am coming from that vein because I think that we deal with a lot. And I always come from the vein of the fact that I never had a mentor. I never had somebody that I could talk to. I never had somebody that I could just go to and get questions answered and cry in their lap. I never had that. And so God has commissioned me to be what I didn't see. And so that's why I do these things. That's why, I'm available to you. If you inbox me, I'm always here to answer, not that I know everything, but here to try to help you navigate what I believe God has called us to do. What I want to tell you tonight, though, I think is for every believer. It's for anyone. Hi, Juanita. I think it's for any and everybody who names the name of Christ. Absolutely anybody who's in ministry, who might, who's anointed, who's called, commissioned to do whatever your particular work is in the body. And whatever that means behind the mic or not behind the mic, in any form or shape of ministry that you might be in. And so this idea of struggling well, several years ago, my husband preached a message about struggling well. And then today I had a brief conversation with someone, a dearly loved, beloved person, and it just prompted me to think. And then, of course, many of you probably watched the fight last night. I was asleep. But anyway, my husband was talking to me about it today in the car, and we were just discussing it because I love boxing, like I love it, but I just couldn't take it last night. And so we were discussing just, Floyd Mayweather's tactics, McGregor, why he didn't win, but why it was a good fight. And so I kind of want to talk just a little bit about that. So a couple of years ago, I had gone somewhere to minister, and I was able to drive there and back on my own. And so I just had a lot of time to think, and was just thinking about this thing about, we always use the word struggle. We always use the phrase that we're struggling with something. Pray for me, I'm struggling with this or struggling with that. And God revealed to me while I was there alone and in that room by myself and having some time. Hey, Corinthia, how y'all doing? Stick with me. I promise I won't be long, okay? And share this video if you would. Hey, honey. Hey, Casey. Hey, Patricia. Hey, Pastor Adam. I see Joseph all the way in South Africa. Brother Kenneth Reed, who I just met today. Blessings, bro. So I was just had this thought, and I wrote it as a Facebook status. And that was, I think, a couple of years ago, I think like in 2015. But many times we say we're struggling with something. We're really not struggling. We're really just losing. We're really just knowingly walking into things without any intention of fighting or winning. We call it struggling because it seems like we're whatever this particular thing is, whether it's a sin or whether it's situational, meaning it's something that we've been placed in, a circumstance that we've been placed in, that we have to fight or struggle or figure our way out or manipulate our way through. Whatever it is, maybe it's mental, maybe it's spiritual, maybe it's emotional, things that we deal with. But a lot of times, some of the sins and things that we deal with, the situations we find ourselves in, are things that we like. And so we have no regard for winning in that situation, but we call it struggling because we don't know what else to call it. So for instance, if we're talking about secret sin, or we're talking about things that we deal with on a daily basis that people don't know that we deal with, the issue is that we're really not struggling. When you struggle with something, or when you're contending for something, or when you're defending a stance, your purpose when you enter into that fight is to win, right? But many of us go into situations, and many of us continue to struggle with certain sins because, or we say we're struggling, but the issue is that we knowingly and willingly hold on to those things, or hold on to those mindsets, or hold on to those people because we want them in our lives. That's not struggling. That is willingly being part of or being privy to or being in a sin. So we're talking about struggling well. We're talking about there's an opposing force. We're talking about there's us. And we're talking about this is something that I want to gain victory in. So when it comes upon me, when I'm met with this particular circumstance or met with this particular feeling or desire or want in my flesh or in my heart, in my mind, whatever it is, however that happens to me, that every time it comes upon me, that I intend to win. I don't intend to falter like I have in the past. And I think the issue is, first of all, that we have to be honest with the fact that a lot of the things that we do or go through, we love to say that we're going through, when really you're not going through. Like, going through means something happened to you. It was not something that you brought upon yourself, not something that you willingly walked into, not something that you chose to do, but something that you've involuntarily found yourself in, and now as you're in it, you have to navigate your way through it. And so that's fine, because you may not win that particular victory because you've never experienced it before. But I'm talking about stuff that is normal, familiar, places where the enemy has literally like walked a hole in the carpet because you left the door open for him. I'm gonna rabbit trail right here. I had a dream several months ago, and it was about myself, and it was like me and my family had moved into this beautiful new house, beautiful home, and we were sitting just watching TV and chilling, just me and the kids and Mike, and happened to look, and there was this big massive hole in the wall. It was a big massive hole in the wall, and this snake, and the snake was the I mean, you could tell that he burrowed this hole in the wall. And so in the dream, like this big, huge snake, if anybody knows, like I'm scared of snakes, like anybody is probably scared of snakes. So this big, huge, massive head of the snake, and he would just come through the wall, big, long body, and just trail his way into the house. And Mike and I would just get up, and the kids would just get up and walk out the door. Nobody was running or scared or fearful or even trying to kill it. Nobody was trying to kill it, but we would just get up and walk out, and then it would leave, and then we would go back in. But listen, the massive hole was still in the wall. Like we were just living, and the massive hole was still in the wall. And many of you are like that. You have your life just completely open to the enemy to come in and run roughshod whenever he gets ready, and you're cool with it. And I shared that with my brother Kenny, and he was like, that's the enemy. That's certain things that he knows about, and we were talking about. And so you've allowed a place and a space in your life where the enemy has an open door and an open pass. Like he literally comes in and you see him and it's cool. Like some things we get, all riled up about the enemy, and we start decreeing and declaring this some stuff we just are so familiar with and that we function with. We just function with it with no problem, with no issue. And without realizing we've left a door open, a window open for I pray all the time for God to shut down the access points, the familiar places that I've opened, the doors and windows and holes that the enemy has burrowed. Now, so that was a hole in a brand new house. I didn't open a window, I didn't open a door, but I also didn't close the hole. I didn't patch it up. We would just get up and walk out when he would come in, and then when he would leave, we would go back in the house. Now, if it's a big, huge snake, common sense would tell you need to patch that up, and you don't need to just patch it up on this side, but there's some patching you need to do. This is a house, so he's coming obviously from the outside in, and this is not a small thing. This is a huge thing that has burrowed a hole all the way from the outside to the inside of the house. So that's an example of, I think, that a lot of times that we talk about struggling, but what we're really not struggling. What we're calling a struggle is willful disobedience and willful sin. And I'm talking about me as well. And so I just wanted to encourage you and give you a few things that I thought would be helpful for all of us if you intend to actually struggle well. Let me first say that struggling with a particular situation, maybe it's unforgiveness or a present sin or a past sin. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for something that happened. Maybe, it's situational where you're in a circumstance right now, you find yourself in a particular place, and it doesn't mean it has to be a bad place, but a place that you have not ever navigated, and you're struggling with insecurity or fear. I'm kind of in that place right now, struggling with insecurity, struggling with fear, struggling with God. I thought I heard you say it, but maybe you really didn't, and I really don't want to fall on my face. I don't want to want people to see me fail. Whatever you could be possibly struggling with, I think there's some things you first need to do is just to be honest. Like, why am I in this place? How did I get here? Is this really a struggle? Is this something that I willfully allowed into my mind, into my heart, into my home, into this space? And how is it affecting who I'm supposed to be, who I'm called to be, and who I'm called to influence? So that's first, we got to first be honest. Like that post that I referenced that I made several years ago when the Lord was kind of revealing that to me, that a lot of times, you're saying, I'm struggling with this, but really you never put up a fight. Ask yourself, are you really putting up a fight when you get that text, when you get that call, when you get whatever it is, when somebody says a certain thing and there are certain triggers for you? Like, do you have parameters already in place to deal with that? Or are you waiting for that text and for that call, and you say you can handle it, but you really can't? So be honest with yourself. Do you have a strategy in place? Mike was talking today about when we were talking about the Mayweather and McGregor fight. He was talking about that McGregor's, one of his issues was that he didn't have tactics based on the fight that he was in. He didn't have training that gave him tactics when he was exhausted. When you're exhausted, you revert back to what you're used to doing. That was a word I told him he was preaching. That's completely from my husband, Mike. I didn't come up with that. So I don't want him to get mad and say I always take his nuggets and teach him. But it was so good, and it went with what I had been thinking about. When you're exhausted, when you're tired, when you're worn down, when you're fatigued, whether mentally or physically, you will always revert back to what you know. You'll always revert back to a comfortable place. Just so happened for McGregor that didn't work because those tactics didn't work in this particular fight. So you got to have a strategy and tactics that work in the fight, for the fight that you're in. So have a strategy. What will you do? You can know what you're going to do when you're completely alert and you're prayed up and all of that, and it means it serves for you to stay prayed up. It serves for you to stay worshiped up. But what if calamity or tragedy or an instance or an issue comes when you're unsuspecting and you're not completely life runs us down. Life can be fatiguing. I mean physically fatigued, like during the week, and it's Thursday and you're super tired, and then you get met with this particular circumstance or met with this thing that really meets with the desire that's in you. How are you going to handle that when you're tired, when you're worn out, when you're run down? What tactics have you put in place? So you got to have a strategy. I was reading really quickly 1 Timothy 6, where Paul is admonishing Tim to fight the good fight of faith, and there are a few key words in there that I thought would help us tonight. Sometimes it's time to fight. Sometimes it's time to stand your ground, contend, and go toe-to-toe with whatever it is that you're facing. Another time he said, flee. Sometimes if you know you don't have the strength, there is no dishonor in running. There is no dishonor in completely avoiding or ignoring a situation if you know you are too weak to battle at that time and you know you're going to lose the battle. So fight, flee, and then he says pursue righteousness. If you're fighting and or fleeing, at the same time, you got to be pursuing something. If you're running from one thing, you got to be running towards something else. Pursuing righteousness. And I'm talking to myself. Pursuing what God wants for you. Pursuing what God has for you. Submerging yourself in His Word. Getting around other, if I'm talking to worship leaders and ministers and psalmists, get around other worship leaders who will strengthen you, who can speak into you. And they don't have to always know what your personal struggle is. Sometimes you can't let people know what's going on in your mind and in your heart and in your life because they'll hold it against you, and they can't understand how you can deal with this and be anointed at the same time. And so sometimes you have to hold those things back, but be pursuing all the time what it is that God has said in you. I know that this is not who I am. I know this is not where I'm supposed to be. I know this isn't what God has for me, but I'm continually struggling with this particular issue. For many of you, it might be just one thing. Like, God, if I could just get past this one test, if I could pass this one exam, if I could just get over this one thing, and it could be one huge thing or it could be several things. If you might be saying to yourself, I wish I could just get past this one particular thing, and it's been literally a struggle for you. And again, when I say struggle, I mean each time you found that you've had to fight with this, but it's hard. And if you do win, it's hard won. But most of the time, you're losing in this particular battle. You have to have strategy. So fight, flee. He tells Timothy to fight, flee, pursue, and then guard. Over even in Proverbs it says, guard your heart. You have to put parameters around the thing that's weakest. I was studying. This is the kind of things worship leaders should be studying, but the Lord had prompted me to study war and the art of war. We're always talking about warfare, and we like to use words, but we don't even know like the art and the science of war. Like I'm talking about real war, like war. And so we don't always know the tactics. We know some of the words, but we don't know the real art and science behind it. But I was reading about it, and these are some things that are obvious, but it was great revelation to me. Just to see it written out, and just talking about sometimes how the enemy comes in. War on the earth used to be just about a battle of physique, who's strongest, who's bigger, who has more in their army, and who has more artillery, that kind of thing. But then different kinds of war began to ensue because we got a little bit more smart as it relates to overcoming, because the point of war is to overcome and overtake and take the spoils. Okay, so that's another word for another day. But so people got smart where you can, well, if I take the head out, then I have a tactical advantage. Or if I come at you in your weakest point, I don't have to be stronger than you. But if I touch what's weak, I can bring you down. And so a lot of times we don't shore up the weak areas in our life, which is why the enemy overtakes us so easily. We are so bent on letting people know what our strengths are, especially social media lets people know how beautiful we are and how great we look. And, we got our flyers, and some of y'all doing photo shoots, and I don't even know. But anyway, but we don't shore up the weak areas in our lives. And so the enemy doesn't have to overtake you in obvious places, but the places that are weak in you that nobody else knows, but you probably know, but you have given no attention to, those are the areas that he constantly pokes at and pokes at and pokes at and pokes at, and that's how he gets you to succumb on your own. Like, he doesn't even have to do a whole lot because you're weak in that area. So when we're talking about war and we're talking about gaining advantage over an opponent, I think the enemy gets us a lot of times, not necessarily by force, but by creeping in and up and through and dismantling those weak areas in our lives that we haven't put parameters around. So we have to guard what's weak until we can get strengthened in those areas that we can fight there. A lot of times you want to go toe to toe with the enemy when you're weak there. If your prayer life is weak, if your worship life is weak, if your propensity to be obedient is weak, if your weakness is, I don't know, it can be a gamut of things. Whatever your particular weakness is, and a lot of times we don't really get all the way to the end of where our weaknesses are. What I mean by that is that, okay, so say I have a problem with, say I have a problem with a particular kind of person telling me what to do, right? Say I have an issue with authority. Let's start there. So I might say my weakness is I just don't like nobody telling me what to do. But really there might be some underlying issues why you don't like people navigating and trying to tell you or giving you wisdom. You perceive it as manipulation. You perceive it as control. You perceive it as one thing, and you blame the outer personality. You blame the other party. But really what it is, you need to figure out what your weaknesses are and why that's triggering. Figuring out what your triggers are for this particular thing. So maybe on the outside, it appears that I get defensive when somebody tells me what to do. But really, if I trace that thing back, maybe there's something in me that never got healed. So now that's a weakness. So now whenever I'm about to get elevated, I can't get to the place where God has for me because I can't take instruction well. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I have to trace that thing back to what my weakness is. What is causing me to be attracted to this particular thing? What's causing me for this particular thing to be my preference? What's causing this to be the thing that trips me up every single time? Why can I never win in this particular battle? If you put a drink in front of me, doesn't bother me. If you put weed in front of me, I'm straight. If you put this or that, but if you give me this, I have absolutely no defense. What is that thing? You need to identify it, be honest about it. You need to set parameters. You need to get a strategy. You need to learn how to fight. But for right now, if it's weak, you need to learn how to flee and guard. But pursue, run away from the thing, but run toward. And a lot of times, the reason why you keep getting tripped up is because you're attracted to what's killing you. You love it. You love it. And that's all of us. Sin feels great. Sin feels absolutely wonderful. Anytime we engage in sin, it's not because it's a horrible thing. It's because it's something we like. The church has lied to us and said that sin is hell, and sin is it will end us up in hell if we continue it. But the things that are sin are things that feel great and things that we're attracted to. The Bible says in James that we are pulled away by our own affections and lusts. That's how you get pulled away. Sin wouldn't be sin in your life if you weren't attracted to it. If you didn't like it, if you didn't feel good, if it didn't make you feel a certain way. Now, it might not look like sin. It might not be dressed up like sin. I mean, it would be completely idiotic for the enemy to dress something up and show you, now, if you do this, you're going to hell now. You do this, you're going, but and a lot of times we can touch and touch and touch and touch, and just, well, it's just a little bit, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to figure it out. I promise them. And all of us go through that. So I'm here to encourage you because all of us go through it. All of us have it. All of us have a propensity towards something. All of us have an affection and lust towards something. All of us have a preference for something. All of us have something that we are attracted to and that we have a weakness toward. And so we have to have a strategy. Paul tells Timothy in 1 Timothy 6 to fight, to flee, to pursue, and to guard. If all else fails, you got to run. Just run. Run when you know that thing is triggered inside of you. I said that know your weakness and your trigger and the triggers to those weaknesses. And then listen to this. Reflect on the last time you failed to win this particular fight. Reflect on the last time you failed to win this particular fight. What were the circumstances involved? What was your mindset? What was going on? Reflect and think about what was going on in your heart. And I bet you'll be able to pinpoint why you lost that time. And if you can pinpoint why you lost that time, then you can put parameters in place to ensure your win this time. And listen, when you struggle well, you know, a warrior, a soldier doesn't always win every battle. There are several battles, and that was something else that I saw in a war. There's several battles in a war. You don't win all the battles. The sin is not, in losing all of these battles. God understands our frame. He knows what we're made of. He knows where we are and who we are. And that's why I'm telling you that this word is encouraging, not condemning, because you don't have to win every battle to still be anointed. You don't have to win every battle to still be called. You don't have to win every battle to still be wanting to do what God has called you to do. God will cover you in the battles that you lose. Do you know that? God will cover you even when you've lost battles, when your heart was in it to win it. But if your heart is not in it to win it, there's nothing he can work with. You've not given him anything to work with. If you're not walking up to the plate to actually win and to actually be a victor, then your heart wasn't in it. Does that make sense? So reflect on the last time you failed to win this particular fight. Figure out why you lost this particular fight. And pinpoint those things. You got to think through what you're going through. A lot of times we're just going through life. You're not praying. You're not worshiping. You're not getting before God. You're not getting any revelation. You're not seeking any advice. And let me say this, like those of you who have any ministry leadership position and people come to you and ask you questions, people need your voice. And not only that, people need to hear where you're weak at. Now, I'm not telling you to divulge all of your information if you don't feel led to do that, or if you're not in a position to do that. But when people come to you and ask you questions, you got to be approachable. A lot of us minister on stage and you so anointed, but when you come down, your anointing doesn't go past the stage because you can't even reach the people that you just sang to or preached to. How can you not reach for the people that you just preached to? People need your advice. They need your hug. They need a word coming from you because they need to know that you're a real person and they're looking up to you and they're coming to you for answers. And this is what I dealt with. They're coming to you for answers. They're coming to you like, how did you get there? How do you get there? I see you ministering. There's something from your heart reaching my heart. And then they come down and they inbox you or they email you and you don't reply. Or your answers are short and abrupt. Or you just tell them, I'm praying for you. Everything is going to be all right. You don't even answer their question. And then you talk about them and act like the fact that they're asking you questions means that they're trying to be more than they are. But there was a time that you were not who you are today. And the truth be told, if you have that attitude, you're not as much as who you think you are as you think you are. Anyway, so reflect on the last time you failed this particular fight and figure out why. Make some bullet points and put some things in place. You got to think about what's in your mind. Think about what's in your heart, and you got to be honest with yourself. This is not telling anybody, what you're going through. This is not saying that you're less than and you're not worthy of what God has called you to, but you got to do some reflection to figure out what it is that's causing me to continue to lose. And sometimes you put parameters in place and you don't follow your own rules. Sometimes you put things in place and you don't follow your own strategies that you put in place. All I can tell you is try again. When the thing comes up against you again, try again. If you're at home, by yourself and you're having thoughts and you're having wants and desires, whatever they could be, it could run the gamut of things. It's not always sexual. We always over-sexualize and stuff. Everything is not sexual. Everybody ain't worried about their identity or cheating or doing whatever. People deal with a rush of things and you don't know where they came from. You don't know what people have been raised in, but you have to sit and think about what it is that you did the last time and why you didn't win that battle the last time, how you felt after you lost that battle when you said, when this comes again, I'm never going to do this again. So go and just pick that thing apart with a fine tooth comb, figure yourself out, figure out your heart, get before God and ask God. There's a scripture that says, I don't even know what's in my heart. I think it's in Psalm 119. I don't even know what's in my heart. Show me what's in my heart. There are things in my heart that I don't even realize that are there, or if I know they're there, I don't know why they're there. And those things that are in my heart, when they come out, I don't know necessarily when I react this way, is it coming from here? Is it coming from here? Sometimes you don't even know if your intentions are coming from a pure place. There are so many things that can be in your heart, so many emotions that we deal with, so many people that we deal with, so many circumstances that we've had to go through, that a lot of times we don't even know what's in our own spirits and what's in our own souls. So reflect on the last time. Put parameters in place. And then ask yourself, is this really a struggle or is this a willing sin? Is this something that I just like to do? I'm not telling you to stay there, but ask yourself and be honest with yourself. Is this something that I just like to do and I need God to completely deliver me from it? Do I need deliverance, or do I just need to stop? Do I need to change my behavior even though I want to do it? A lot of times we don't feel delivered because we might have willed ourselves or made ourselves stop doing something for a time. But true deliverance means when you don't want that thing anymore. And there is no dishonor in still having a desire for a thing, but choosing not to indulge in that thing. Hear me. There is no dishonor in still having a desire for a thing, but submitting the desire for that thing to the divinity of God, submitting it to the anointing that God has put on your life, and saying, I really want this. I want it. I want you. I want this. I want it. But I am not going to divulge. And so I'm going to flee. Like, I can't even touch it. I can't talk to you. I can't go there. I can't be around this. I can't see this on TV. I can't listen to it, because if I do, it's going to make me I already want it. I already like it. I already desire it. If I look at it, if I hear it, if I see it, if I feel it, if I smell it, if it touches me, if I touch it, it's going to make, I'm too weak to be around it, to be in it, to say no. You have to be honest with yourself if that's where you are. And so I just wanted to encourage you tonight to struggle well. Struggle well. There is no dishonor. Hear me. I'm trying to get this into you, and I hope I'm saying it right. There's no dishonor in struggling well. If you happen to fail this time and God sees your heart and your intention was to win, your intention was to fight the good fight, your intention was to flee or pursue or guard or run or whatever, and you happen not to win this time, then you live to fight another day. But then I'll say this, that each victory will help you some other to win. I love that line in that hymn. Yield not to temptation, for yielding is sin, but each victory will help you some other to win. If you win this one, you'll get the strength to win another one. And you might win by the skin of your teeth. You might have almost done it. You might have almost divulged. You might have almost gone. You might have almost slept with them. You might have almost texted them. You might have almost, whatever the case may be. But if you win even by the hair of your chinny chin chin, it will help you and strengthen you and encourage you that you have within you the power to be a victor again. But even if you lose this battle this time, go back and look and see what it is that the enemy did. What was his tactics? What were your counter tactics? And what did you do or not do that put you in that particular predicament? What mindset were you in that didn't enable you to win? So just want to encourage you, struggle well. Struggle well. All of us are dealing with things. All of us are going through things. All of us have wants and desires. All of us face sin. All of us are in situational circumstances that put us through things where we doubt ourselves. But listen, struggle well. Fight with that thing until you win. Fight with it until you get a strategy. Fight with it until you get a revelation. Fight with it until you talk yourself through it. Pray yourself through it. Worship your way through it. Worship is our weapon. That's my shirt tonight. Worship is our weapon. Listen, fight your way through it. Continue to struggle through it. Go through the word of God and allow it to be a sword in your hand. Let the high praise of God be a sword, a two-edged sword in your hand. Like all the tactics and the tools that you need, God is giving you. You have to access them and know how to use them. And so I just wanted to just tell you that. Just struggle well. Struggle well. Struggle well. Defend yourself. Set parameters. Think about what you're thinking about. Figure out what's in your heart. Take some time to pray and ask God what's in your heart to reveal it to you. The things that you don't know why they're there. If they're things from the past, things from your childhood, you have no idea what could be in you, but God will reveal that to you. Whatever their triggers are, ask God to dismantle them so that when the enemy pushes them, he doesn't get a response out of you. And so figure out how to win when you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're fatigued, when you're not particularly prayed up. What are your tactics? What's your go-to when you're tired? What's your thing that you do when nobody's watching? Like, figure those things out. The last thing is, you can't win in a fight you won't train for. You can't win in a fight that you won't train for. You're going to have fights. You're going to have battles. You're going to have struggles. If you don't find yourself thinking forward, you'll always fail. If you don't find yourself thinking forward to those things that you know are going to be issues for you, you're always going to be met with failure. So think forward, struggle well, be encouraged this week. I love you. Listen, I want to take a second. There's only a few of you left on here with me, but that's cool. Hopefully you'll share this. Invite somebody if this is a good word for you. Listen, the Uncommon Worshipers Gathering is coming October 20th and 21st. If you are a worship leader and deal with some of the things I've talked about today, I'm telling you, you want to be in the place. Pastor Topet is going to preach about, he's going to teach about killing the other me. And it's something that I wanted him to teach about because I know it's something I deal with, and I know it's something that you deal with as well. So if you're a worshiper, worship leader, worship team member, a musician, and if you are a congregation member, listen, this is the Uncommon Worshipers Gathering for worshipers from the seat to the stage. This is for every single body. So I want you to come. I want you to be part of it, but you have to get registered. I need you to get registered. There's many of you saying you're going, but you have not yet gotten registered. So I need you to get registered. We have a ton of guests coming. David and Nicole Binion are going to be our guests for midday worship on Saturday, but you have to register. Friday night is worship and intercession. That's free to the public, but Saturday has to be registered for. Go to www.glendawilliamsmusic.com to register tonight. Also, inbox me if you have a group of 6 or more, you get a discount. So inbox me for that code so that when you go in, you can get that discount. Listen, I love you. I hope you're encouraged. Please share this with somebody and struggle well this week. I love you. Have a great night.